In this video, we will be telling you how to tell the difference between an INFJ and an INTP. Now, if you don't know what these foreign words mean, then they're part of the 16 personality types described by the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. There are 4 categories in the test: introversion, extroversion, sensing, intuition, feeling, thinking, and judging, perceiving. By the looks of it, you can probably guess what INFJ and INTP means now. An INFJ is someone whose personality traits include introversion, sensing, feeling, and judging. On the flip side, an INTP is someone who's also introverted and sensitive, but more focused on thinking and perceiving. Even though the first 2 traits of these 2 personality types are the same, you'd be surprised to know that they're actually polar opposites of each other. An INFJ is your close friend who's emotional, sensitive, and very intuitive. But the INTP is your work buddy who has a messy desk but knows where everything is and hasn't said "I love you" to someone in the past 5 years. Now, it isn't very easy to tell the difference between an INFJ and an INTP, but to help you out, we've gathered a list of the best ways to spot the differences, simply by looking at their everyday routines and habits. Without further ado, here's how you can tell the difference between INFJs and INTPs. Number 1. Dealing with emotions. There's no surprise in knowing that INFJs and INTPs deal with their feelings in very different ways. For starters, you should probably know that INFJs are more comfortable when it comes to understanding the irrational nature of emotions than INTPs. Now, INFJs focus on other people's emotions a lot. If they're sitting with someone, they start absorbing their emotions in real time. This also shows that they're super compassionate, empathetic, and know how to feel other people's emotions as if they're the ones experiencing them. The best part about this is that an INFJ's emotions aren't exclusive. They're the same way with anyone and anything. They're compassionate with a close family member, someone they just met at a coffee shop, or even a helpless little animal in a book. Plus, it's super interesting to see how INFJs morphs into the same emotions as you. If they're around happy people, they'll automatically start feeling happy too. If they're around sad people, they might find themselves feeling bummed out for no reason at all. Unfortunately, this also means that INFJs don't understand their own emotions properly. Since they're so invested in how other people are feeling, the line between others' emotions and their own is super blurry. On the flip side, INTPs can't understand other people's emotions that well because they tend to be more logical human beings. Even though INTPs do have deep feelings, they try to rationalize their emotions instead of experiencing them properly. This is actually because they find it hard to accept anything that can't be explained in a logical and analytical way. Most of the emotions you feel aren't entirely rational, which is why INTPs can find them to be super confusing and even overwhelming at times. Even if they have to accept a difficult emotion, they need to have evidence to support it. There is a common misconception that says INTPs are emotionally unavailable and INFJs wear their hearts on their sleeve. We can't say that this is entirely inaccurate, but certainly a super generalized thing to say. Number 2, making decisions. When it comes to making important decisions in their life, INFJs and INTPs focus on very different criteria. They need to come up with the right plan for their life. You'll see that an INFJ prioritizes emotions, whereas an INTP will try to weigh the pros and cons. Now, INFJs focus on intuition and emotion. They want to see how their decisions will affect the people they love, which is why they want to create win-win scenarios where they can avoid hurting anybody. These people are often referred to as the peacemakers in social groups and families because they like seeing both sides of a story and finding a solution that works for everyone. Even when they have to make group decisions, INFJs try to understand how this will impact the whole group and try their best to create harmony between people. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're people pleasers, though. It just shows that they're caring individuals. On the other hand, INTPs want to focus on logic and reasoning to make decisions. You'll always find them starting with theory, then find facts, and finally return to the theory. If they have to make a point in an argument or support their decision, INTPs will try to find as many facts as possible. In fact, it's interesting to think how INTPs build an internal web of knowledge throughout their life. They already have a fixed framework of knowledge, and anything that contradicts that information can be hard for them to accept. If you're trying to spot the difference between these 2 personality types, ask them to choose between 2 options. You'll notice that an INFJ will always choose the option that makes them feel better, and an INTP will choose the one that makes more logical sense. Number 3, being organized. The way an INFJ and an INTP organize their day-to-day lives is incredibly different. The basic thing you need to look out for is how INFJs prefer to be super planned out and INTPs love to be spontaneous. Like we said, INFJs are orderly individuals who only achieve mental peace when they've got a plan. They want to know what they're doing and when they're doing it. Maybe that's because they always have a lot of thoughts in their heads. And if they want to be productive, there needs to be a super detailed to-do list involved. Being in an environment with outer structure can help an INFJ think clearly. These people thrive on routine, but still need some time to recharge after a while. Once they've followed their super organized structure for a while, they need to go back to their introverted bubble and focus on their interests. On the flip side, you'll see that INTPs are very relaxed and adaptable. They're not the kind of people who have a 5-year plan down to the tiniest detail. In fact, they're pretty spontaneous and open to new experiences. This personality trait comes from the fact that they love entertaining different possibilities and tend to feel very uncomfortable if they don't have options. INTPs want to have the freedom of changing their mind at the last minute or hopping into plans they said they weren't going to be a part of. It's just the way they live. If you're trying to tell the apparent difference between these two personality types, ask them where they see themselves in 5 years. You'll see that an INFJ will have everything planned out from where they want to live to their career and future, but an INTP will be the exact opposite. In fact, they might give you a generic answer like, "I'll go wherever life takes me," because that's what they're going to do. They like living in the moment. Number 4, how they communicate. Since INFJs and INTPs are both introverted people who are quite sensitive, they need time to collect their thoughts. Even though they're both social, they'll also need time to recharge their social batteries when everything gets too overwhelming. Now, the key difference here is how direct they are when it comes to talking to other people. INTPs are blunt. They'll express their strong opinions about everything without caring about what other people think. On the other hand, INFJs will stop and consider how their words might impact others in the room. On the surface, INFJs are warm when it comes to communication. These individuals tend to ask a lot of questions when they're talking to people because they're deeply curious. Since they're also incredible listeners, other people tend to open up to them very easily. INFJs are also more likely to be expressive and emotional in their communication style. They won't hold back on anecdotes and personal stories to help explain their points to other people. Even though both personality types like to keep their feelings to themselves, INFJs are comparatively more expressive. They'll choose their words carefully, but they know how to be persuasive and get other people to agree. They're also exceptionally thoughtful and compassionate, which means they might take a little time to respond to what you're saying so they can come up with an answer that won't offend you. On the flip side, INTPs simply don't like talking about their feelings. Even when they do, they'd much rather share reasoning and logic to explain their side of the argument. These people are very direct, which means they love debating on topics that they're passionate about. Even though INTPs communicate in a more open-ended way, it's almost always a trap. If they feel like your opinion is wrong, they'll be very quick to point out all the discrepancies in your argument. In fact, INTPs tend to play the devil's advocate just for the sake of it. After taking some time to collect their thoughts, they'll be super articulate with their words. Number 5, exploring possibilities. INTPs and INFJs are both known to look for underlying meanings. This means they're naturally wired to read between the lines, find patterns, and connect dots. However, the difference here is how INTPs apply this to everything, while INFJs only focus on fewer topics. INTPs find it appealing to imagine many different possibilities. They want to think of new ideas and have the ability to connect dots between topics that might seem unrelated to an average individual. In fact, research shows that INTPs get distracted easily. This personality trait could also result in INTPs looking impulsive or scatterbrained to other people because they keep jumping from one idea to the next. And of course, as a consequence, they find it hard to finish what they've started before moving on to something new. On a similar note, INFJs like to delve deep into topics. The thought process they have is often unconscious and at lightning speed, which makes their intuition a natural part of their personality. But when they make connections, they don't jump from topics like INTPs do. Instead, an INFJ would prefer understanding one thing completely before jumping to the next. They tend to have a narrower focus. If you're trying to find the difference between an INFJ and INTP this way, we'd recommend talking to them about something they're deeply passionate about. In that conversation, start noticing whether they try to relate other topics to the one they're talking about, or if they stay on topic and delve into it deeply. Number 6, intentions. When INTPs do something, they usually have a good reason. They might not tell you what it is or even have to think about it, but they almost always have solid intentions behind what they're doing. For instance, an INTP would listen and give attention to other people because they want to make them feel loved. They'd think about how being patient and hearing other people is a good way to show people you love them. On the other hand, INFJs will act on their intuition. If they empathize with somebody, they do it naturally instead of having a particular reason for it. In fact, INFJs rely more on their gut feeling than anything else. If they feel like doing something, they'll do it without thinking about it for another second. They know how to trust their intuition. The key difference here is that while INTPs need logical reasoning behind everything they do, INFJs are impulsive enough to simply rely on their intuitive knowledge. And that's a wrap for this video. Are you ready to spot the difference between an INFJ and an INTP? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out other awesome videos on our channel.